And all the king's horses and all the king's men couldn't put fragments of silicon back together again.
Not exactly the thing I thought you were going for, given the weather, but whatever. Anyway, welcome to another installment of Fragments of Silicon. I'm your host, Adam. Joining me, as always, is the regular crew. Hope you're keeping warm on this polar vortex day.
Yeah, especially if you're in the north middle of the United States.
It's cold
Usually
here.
we call that,
Or the middle of Canada.
you know, it's like it's colder than like the South Pole, apparently.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, now that we've finished dating this episode, let's get to the news. Let's see. Alex, why didn't you start us off this week?
Thankfully, we got the cold. I'm in Maine. We got the cold fairly light. We only got about 3 or 4 inches of snow, which we can handle. I need to rake the roof, but when don't I? Other than that, not a whole lot interesting has been going on. At work, I actually just finished a relatively long-term project, so I'm gonna work on something different soon, I guess. Video game wise, I've been playing some of the Raven for review, and also playing some Smash because Piranha Plant got released yesterday, which I actually wasn't expecting it for like another week or two, so that was nice. It's actually pretty fun to play, although it has a chargeable side special, which hasn't actually been a thing before and keeps messing me up. Because you have to side special again to release it. Whereas most things are like Corrin's side special. To do a second attack out of that, you just have to press the special button again. You can have different directional options. I know. Mm-hmm. I just keep accidentally charging up my poison gas and then accidentally doing the Patui spike ball thing when I mean to release the gas. So, but he's fun. So, or she. I guess the plan could be either way. It, yes. So that's about all I've got right now.
All right. Twilight.
Let's see here now. It's been snowing and for like the past several days. With every time the word snow keeps people run in as if it's going to be the apocalypse or something like that. It doesn't help that the most popular radio man in this county keeps hyping it up, as he's done for almost like the past 30 years. Yeah. Let's see now. Not much been going on around here otherwise. Gaming wise, been playing Resident Evil 2, the remake, and it's been fun. Lots and lots of fun, actually. And I've also been playing one of the games for the review this Sunday as well. And that's about it for me.
All right. Hadifan, you're up.
Well, the big thing was Monday night I got Kingdom Hearts 3. No points for guessing what I've been doing. Though I did find out something very interesting I can do with the PS4 now. They have a desktop app to let you remote play, and it shows the footage on your computer. Well, OBS will let me capture that, so I effectively have a means to capture PS4 footage. There's a little bit of lag because playing through the internet, so I don't know how much I'll use it, outside of probably doing Kingdom Hearts, because that game's pretty forgiving. Like, it doesn't need, like, frame perfect inputs or anything like that.
Hmm.
So it's one of those play it by ear if we get PS4 games for a review. Whether it'll be easier just to local record it and then send it to YouTube, or just play it live from the PS4 to my computer. And let's see what else. It's also been cold here. Like, not as cold as the whole Arctic Vortex thing, but it's cold enough, we have to be concerned about pipes potentially bursting.
Yeah, same here.
And I think that's it for me.
All right then. Let me see. It's been cold here as well. It's just less cold than other places because it's still, it's been like the 30s, 40s. Like cold for Florida, not so cold for elsewhere. But I suppose that's the advantage.
Oh man, it's so cold you might actually have to think about putting on long sleeves.
You'd be surprised how much that comes up.
I do remember I saw it was recently that like some people in like Georgia or something were getting advice to go out in layers because it was like below 50. Which I guess if undershirt and like actual shirt or like underwear and actual pants counts as layers, I guess that's probably a good idea.
Sure. Anyway, I had to deal with a power outage yesterday. Nothing to do with the weather. It's like apparently a vehicle hit the local pole, I think. Like it hit something important for the electricity. And yet, it's like it was a cold night's sleep. Let's put it that way. And, so, let's see. Oh, right. Update on the website, and it's not good news. So, the website itself has, I don't know, it's collapsed, or like, well, it's not so much the website, but the entire domain is offline right now. And I'm not exactly sure what was the cause of that, but I'm fairly certain of what the cause of that is. And it's related to Mac's current situation, let's say. Talked to him about it the other day. He said he'll be able, he'll get to it when he can get to it, when he is not in such dire straits, I guess is the way to put it. So it's on indefinite hiatus, like, and it could be restored next week. It could be a couple months. It's just, it's an indefinite period of time. And in the meantime, if you're wondering what our schedule is going to be, I've put that in a Google Doc, which I think is connected to the Discord now.
Yes, if you're in our Discord, just type an !schedule and it will give you a link to the Google Doc.
I mean, clearly not an optimal situation, but
But until one of us gets around to like making a replacement website, or Mac has the time and money to figure out a way to fix the current one,
Well, he said he said he would get to it. You know, it's more.
Well, yeah, I have no doubt that he'll get to it. It's just like if that will be any time soon.
Yeah, I mean, it can't be helped. You know, it's basically what I told them. You know, so yeah, it's unfortunate, but we will soldier on. Like as far as regular production, that's not going to affect anything. It's just it kind of impairs the ability to post things in advance, especially we can't really have listings on the Twitch page. Like
I mean, there is the option for the events, but it's kind of tedious.
Right. Well, that, and it's also we have events all the time now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like you're like you were doing Kingdom Hearts stuff earlier today, and that kind of interceded with the regular hype job of the episode.
Fair enough.
That's the kind of thing I'm talking about. It's like usually I post the promo about a day in advance. It's like can't really do that while we've got Final Fantasy 14 stuff among other things.
Yeah.
Like, and it's also affected the SEO because all of the MSP stuff is kind of vanished from Google. I guess that's what happens at the domain level.
Right.
Anyway, if we have any further updates on the situation, we will certainly impart them. As it is, it's just kind of on the sideline. Let's see. And yeah, I guess I can officially announce this now. This season is going to be 28 episodes in order to make up for the fact that last season was 24 episodes. Usually our seasons go 26. So, yeah, that means this season will be concluding at the end of March instead of like mid-March. We'll be taking a break first 2 weeks of April. And with all that in mind, I believe that is the news for the week. And so merrily we shall roll along to the interview portion of the broadcast. And we are pleased to welcome back to the program Ryan Roth.
Hey, what's up?
A lot of cold weather. I mean,
yeah, it's pretty cold. Yeah.
I mean, how's the weather in Japan?
It's warmer than I'm usually from Toronto. It's a little bit warmer than Toronto. It's 10 degrees or whatever that is in freedom units. What's that, 45, 50? I don't know.
Well, I mean, what part of Japan are you in right now?
I'm in Tokyo.
No. Like, I'm trying to remember exactly where that is, like latitude-wise, but it's not important right now. Anyway, long-time listeners will recall we've had Ryan on the program before, a couple years ago, if I'm recalling. Like, it was over Kit Fox Games, Moon Hunters. So we did the whole background thing there. I think that was back in the TalkShoe era, if I'm recalling correctly. So, you'd have to go to that archive to, if you want to access that pertinent information.
Yeah, I think that one survived the culling.
Yeah, it's like if it's from 2015, it should I think that's the first year they got. Maybe 2014, but yeah, that interview should be there. Don't remember which episode offhand. I mean, that's kind of what happens when you do a lot of these. Anyway, so basically we can skip all the background information and get to the present, or at least the recent present, because you've done quite a few games, worked on quite a few games since Moon Hunters, if I'm reading your website correctly.
Yeah, I think, Moon Hunters, I don't know when Moon Hunters came out. It was 2015, came out on the Switch a couple of years ago, a year ago, I don't know.
Yes.
But yeah, I mean, I don't even think the beginner's guide had came out at that point.
Now I'm seeing that listed after.
Yeah, so I mean, I've done that. I mean, I've been working with Alien Trap. I did Cryptark, and you know, right now I'm working on Void Bastards. You know, I did Guacamelee 2 earlier this year.
Yeah, we tried to. We've had Drinkbox on the program before. We tried to have, or on. That was Drinkbox, right? Yeah. Just making sure I'm not confusing him, because there are a lot of Metroidvania games out, you know, and I remember like Guacamelee 2 coming out like about the same time as 4 other ones.
Yeah, I think Chasm came out around the same time, didn't do as well. Yeah, but I think a lot of people picked up on Guacamelee 2. I mean, it's the first game, but it's more of that. You know, it's just that's what people wanted. So you know.
Yeah, like personally, and I think we were busy with Dead Cells at that point.
Dead Cells is really good too. Yeah. I think that one did very well.
Yeah, but yeah, you know, haven't gotten around to Guacamelee 2 yet. You know, it's like it's one of those eventually. I mean, I like the first one well enough. It's just, you know, there are so many Metroidvanias these days. It's kind of hard not to get burnt out on them.
And Metroidvanias usually take a little bit more time than some other ones to explore thoroughly.
Have you guys played Hollow Knight? Have you guys played Hollow Knight?
Yeah.
Yes, we have.
Yes, we have. We've talked to Team Cherry about Hollow Knight.
God damn! Can I swear on this? Sorry.
Yeah, we can.
I fucking love Hollow Knight. It's so good. Like the sound design is just, it's just the atmosphere is fantastic. I know Metroidvanias are usually known for their atmosphere and stuff like that, but Jesus Christ, they did good. You know, like it's really well done. I liked it a lot.
Yeah, Hollow Knight was, I think, what was our game of the year of 2017, if I'm recalling correctly. Now,
something like that, yeah.
You know, put a fair amount into Hollow Knight. It's just Hollow Knight is big, really big, and this is before, and like even before the content updates. You know, it came nowhere near to finishing it before I had to move on to other games. But yeah, I mean. Anyway, so getting to the current project, we got a game called Void Bastards. So where to start with this? I suppose we should start with the trailer.
I was figuring you wanted to start with that. Give me 1 second.
Yeah.
One of these. Well, there we go. All right. Audio.
Surprise, buttface!
Do try not to die while action items remain unticked.
Gotcha!
Client expired.
I'm looking to you for a paradigm shift towards competence.
Biscuits revoked!
Come here so I can give you a hug.
No respect for synergizing.
Action items ticked.
All right then.
So are you playing as the backpack there?
So PAL, the backpack is called PAL. It just holds all your gear. It holds your guns and your, all your stuff that you've built. You're playing as the client that gets sort of reanimated. So you hear Kevin Brighting, right? Like Kevin Brighting's the robot, the Vax.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he revives you. You play as this guy, and yeah, that's you play as client.
More specifically, you play as the Void Bastards.
I guess you could say that, yeah.
Well, I mean that's what it says, like on the Steam page, and such. I suppose it would help if we define who are the Void Bastards. What are the Void Bastards?
Okay, so essentially, you play as these little packets of dried up people, and then you get reanimated, and then you get random traits, and then you have to go essentially restart the FTL drive. That's the point of the game. So you have to go get parts. That's the whole point.
Well, it sounds simple in concept, at least.
Yeah, but it's all bureaucratic nightmares, and things go wrong, and Yep.
Indeed. And let's see. So, given what you've said about the player characters, I'm assuming this is either a roguelike or a roguelite.
Yeah. Well, we're trying not to use that word, but I mean, you could say that
it is a game with procedurally generated content and permadeath.
More roguelite, I guess.
Okay.
So you upgrade, you build stuff, stuff you've collected, you get to keep it, and then you go back and you re-roll a new character, and it's with different traits and stuff like that. So a little bit, if you look at Rogue Legacy, it's maybe a little bit like that. So
yeah. Thank you, Game Maker's Toolkit. They finally, the delineation between a roguelike and a roguelite. And then there's the roguelite light, which is basically it plays like Rogue, but it's got the upgrade thing. Like, okay, if you're not calling it a roguelite, what are you calling it?
I don't know. What was the word we used? I can't even remember now. But there's just so many roguelikes and roguelites out there that we're just like, we'd rather not, because it's a little bit more. You have to think a little bit more than that. Like it's more of a, it has strategy elements like FTL. It's got there's so many overlapping systems that I don't know. It just seems very it seems better to not use that word, I guess.
Frabs McFrabs in the chat is saying strategy shooter.
Strategy shooter, yeah, that's Farbs, yeah.
Or Farbs?
I mean, Farbs is one of the programmers on the game, so.
All right. Yeah. Sorry, I'm not very good with names, so if I butcher your name, I'm sorry.
Don't worry, you're in good company. I'm not talking about me. I'm talking about Adam.
Yeah. I'll punch you later.
Can I stream it?
Anyway, violence aside, yeah. So, well, the rogue light, the whole shebang has gotten pretty warped in recent times. Like some of the games we've covered in recent memory, I still think the apex of that was Tumbleseed.
That was fucking weird.
Yeah, it's like really don't have time to go into that game, but just look it up.
I was about to say reviews in the archive, boys and girls.
Yeah, holy no, that was crazy.
Actually, worth taking a look at.
Yeah. Anyway, so what sort of strategies are you devising for this first-person game?
Okay, so let's talk about System Shock 2.
Okay.
You have piqued
So-
Adam's interest.
so John, who's running the whole team essentially, he essentially worked. He made System Shock 2 with Ken Levine, and he's done BioShock and stuff like that. So he wanted to come from this angle of like making a strategy game. Like he's really into XCOM. So we're thinking about shooter mechanics with FTL, XCOM, System Shock like systems that overlap each other. And anyway, that's sort of what we've created, I guess. So it comes from a very System Shock type, systems heavy game.
Well, yeah. I mean, System Shock 2 is one of my favorites, and it kind of helps that we kind of know the people who handle System Shock these days. I guess is a good way of putting it. But diving into that, what are you doing to update philosophy for the modern age, so to speak?
So it's a little bit. So let me just describe something that you would potentially do in the game. So you can hack stuff in the game. Like we have turrets that are called gun points, and so you can hack them so they'll start attacking, other enemies that are attacking you, right? Which is great instead of attacking you. I think BioShock has the same. You hack stuff.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, in
It's like
BioShock,
weird puzzle.
I believe you predominantly hack by playing mini games of Pipe Dream.
Yeah. It's a little bit different, but essentially there is a weapon you can get called the Rifter, which doesn't do any damage, but what you can do is you can pick up essentially any entity. So you can pick up an enemy, you can pick up a gun point, you can pick up whatever you want, and then you can put it wherever you want. So the idea is that you could hack a gun point, make it yours, and then it'll fight for you, and then you could use the Rifter, grab it, and then you can bring it with you, and then you could put it like in the entrance of a doorway so it could guard something, so you could go in and loot, get out. So there's so many like interlocking systems that allow the player to just a la System Shock kind of let you think about like, hey, what if I did this and this, and then it creates these really interesting mechanics and situations.
And what kind of combat system are we talking about here? Is it kind of the dual wielding thing that BioShock had?
No, you get one thing at a time. So when you go onto a ship, you can bring in 3 different things. You can bring in a weapon, like a main gun, and then you can bring in a tool, and then you can bring in an indirect explosive device or something like that. So you bring in 3 things, and then based on those tools, you can kind of create your own strategy to deal with the enemies on the ship, or to get the loot, or that kind of stuff.
And what sort of foes will you be encountering on the ship?
Well, I mean, there's big tanky units that have lots of HP, that do lots of damage, that you have to deal with in certain ways. There's, like I said, there's turrets, gun points. There are all kinds of different enemies that do different things. There are enemies that disappear and then appear in a different area. Yeah.
And that reminds me of I'm trying to remember what kind of splicers they were, but the ones that teleported in BioShock.
Yeah, essentially very, very similar concept. They look like these big ghost phantom things. I don't know if you guys have a picture.
Don't have one on hand, but we could probably find one.
Yeah,
it's probably in the if you actually go to voidbastards.com, you can probably, it's in the press kit for sure.
I mean, let me see here. So, is it just the one scenario, getting to the faster than light drive, or are there other levels? levels? Is this a repeating thing? How does this all work structure-wise?
Well, I mean, your ultimate goal, is to restart the FTL drive. But what ends up happening is, on the way, a lot of bureaucratic, like I was saying, bureaucratic nightmare-related stuff happens. So it's like, you go get these parts, and then your Bax tells you, hey, your ID card got shredded, so you have to go make a new ID card. So it's just like, you have to do this very simple thing to complete the game, but essentially it takes you through all these scenarios that, you know what I'm trying to say? Like, it's just a bureaucratic nightmare. That's what the game ends up being.
I must admit, I am having a bit of a time getting my head around the whole bureaucratic nightmare concept, if only because that's not a concept. Those are not words that usually come up when dealing with like first-person shooters.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a
Papers,
different...
Please, maybe, but that's a first-person passport stamper.
Yeah. I mean, if I think of bureaucratic nightmares, I'm thinking more like point-and-click adventure games or something like that. Maybe interactive fiction.
So, you know how? Okay, let's talk about BioShock again for a second.
Okay.
You know, BioShock, it's like this utopia, and you get down, and you're in the, you're underwater, and it's this, but it's this dystopia, right?
Right.
So I think the idea behind Void Bastards is there are all these systems in place to make everything run properly. However, because it's there are so many rules, everything ends up being super bullshit, So to do anything, you have to get authorized. To open doors, you have to authorize, you have to pay merits to get through doors, and it's all just the narrative is very like dystopian nightmare brought on by too much regulation sort of thing. But we take it in a little bit less of a serious, like BioShock is very serious. It's a little bit more lighthearted in Void Bastards, I guess.
I think that's certainly reflected in the art style. It's like we talk a lot about System Shock here, but when I see like the footage of the game, I'm thinking more Borderlands.
Yeah, it's got that kind of comic-y, cel-shaded. Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I mean, and I'm guessing that the writing and the humor is going to reflect that.
Yeah, it definitely does. We had Kara write the game. Kara Elson. She did. She's working on that Dreams game right now, but she also did Dishonored 2. She was writer for Dishonored 2. She's just, she's a good friend, and she's she's a really good writer, and she's come up with some pretty funny stuff. So,
I mean, I'd imagine so. So, is this game single player focused, or is there like a multiplayer component to it?
It's a single player campaign. Yeah.
Like, interesting. Now, especially given like the whole goal of the games, that sounds like the kind of thing I'd normally see like 2 to 4 players engage in. And I suppose my question here is, exactly what was do you know the rationale behind making this a single player game?
Well, it's a strategy shooter. I mean, I don't know. Like, you could come at it from like a BioShock perspective. Like, it's a very, or System Shock multiplayer. Like, not really. Like, it's more similar to that game than, I'm not quite sure what multiplayer game you'd be, like Halo or something. Like, it's not really like that. So it's not like a PvP or it's not that kind of game.
No, I get that. It's just, there are certain games out there that certainly haven't didn't try to crowbar multiplayer in or anything like that. So
yeah, that's not what this game is at all. It's more of a strategy. Yeah, it's a single player strategy game. Yeah.
Indeed. And is this game being built in Unity, Unreal?
We're using Unity, I guess. Yeah.
Like, makes sense. It's usually like one or the other. Especially since, how do I put this? A higher production indie title, at least compared to other games, let's say.
Well, I mean, we've got a really cool team. People that have worked on, like I said, John did System Shock and BioShock, and Dean's done Star Wars games, and most people have worked at Irrational on the team, and so we've got a pretty good team, and I don't know. We were able to pull something off that's. I think the art style really differentiates the game from a lot of. You look at it and you're like, it's totally different from anything else that you compared it to Borderlands, but even then it's a little bit different than that.
Yeah, I mean, Borderlands more the aesthetic and everything, not necessarily the gameplay, because once again, Borderlands was very co-op heavy.
Mm-hmm,
Yeah, co-op and just straight up balls of the walls action.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, maybe not so much. It was kind of light action role playing game there. It's like you had to deal with numbers and stuff. Anyway. So this game was announced at, if I'm recalling, the December Inside Xbox, or X19, something like that.
Yeah, in Mexico City,
yeah. And my question is this game exclusive to the Xbox One on consoles?
Well, it is exclusive. I mean, working with Microsoft, they've been great. So we will be on Xbox. We're also going to be on PC, so you'll be able to get the game on Steam day one as well. So.
Okay, provided Epic doesn't swoop in. No, I'm not happy about that, but that's a topic for another day.
Well, we're not. I don't have anything to say about Epic in terms of Void Bastards, but we can talk about Epic in general. I mean, I don't know. They're what was that game they just took the one the
Metro Exodus.
Russian
Yes,
game.
Metro Exodus.
Yeah. Pretty nuts, like that's crazy. Like they had pre-orders and stuff on Steam, and they were like, fuck you, we're gonna.
Well, they'll be honoring the pre-orders on Steam at least.
Yeah, they're honoring the pre-orders. It's just if you wanted to buy the game, you have to do it on the Epic Game Store until February 14th or whenever the game releases, 2020. So.
Anyway.
Yeah,
the issue is that they decided that was the way they wanted to compete with the market, and honestly, they didn't have a whole ton of choices available.
Right, but that's kind of a thing that's going to be in the questioning, at least in the short term going forward, because they keep pulling that shit. Anyway, is this game? Speaking of timed exclusives, is this game only tied to the Xbox for a certain amount of time, or in order to play the Void Bastards on console, do you need to have an Xbox One?
Unfortunately, I can't say, but we're definitely happy working with Microsoft, and we're going to be exclusive to Xbox. Yeah.
Okay. Not the most surprising of answers.
Sorry.
No, NDAs are what they are. We certainly encounter them quite a bit. Let's see. As far as the PC version, is this game going to be Windows only, or are there Mac and Linux versions in development?
Somebody asked about Linux the other day. I run the Twitter account for Void Bastards. Somebody asked about Linux, and I just made this really ridiculous. I was like, I used Linux once. What did I say? I said, I used CentOS one. Have you guys used Linux? Do you use Linux?
No.
I used to have it on my laptop as a backup, but not really much.
Okay, this is what I said. I said, okay, so I said, I used CentOS one time, I had this really cool 3D desktop thing I installed that ran on OpenGL or something. Took me a week to get the sound working. In the end, only the left channel worked. Long story short, probably not going to release on Linux.
Yeah.
We don't. It's not that we have a vested interest in Linux. We just like to cover all bases of availability questions.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
And
I
we
don't know.
definitely
Maybe we'll-
understand that Linux is way harder to get a workable thing on, since Linux is completely different for every user.
How the
Yeah.
kids say difficult.
Yeah. That being said, since this game is coming out on Steam, there's that Proton option.
We've been we might try it out. I don't know, but probably not. So
No, it's like it's not. It's always understandable if you don't want to do a Linux version because Linux is a very small part of the market, but man, they are very loud, very very loud.
Yeah, and they'll be where most of your support tickets will be coming from.
Yes, in fact, we've got actual statistics on this. Like a game dev mentioned Linux gaming in these terms not too long ago. It's like, they were less than 1% of the market. They were like 20% of the support tickets or something like that. Because that's kind of how Linux goes.
yeah, but it's not support tickets. They're not like giving you feedback to bugs or anything. They're just like, no, it doesn't work
they're
on
just letting
this.
letting you know that it doesn't work on their specific toaster-based,
Exactly.
4K resolution Linux rig.
That they made out of an old Mac that they were going to make into an aquarium.
Exactly. Well, I mean, let's not make fun of Linux too much. I mean, it is cool. Well, I don't know. Just whatever. It's debatable whether or not it's cool, but I mean, it's.
If you have the time and energy to make Linux work for you, more power to you.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, yeah.
Anyway, putting Linux aside, what about the Mac users? Is there a version of Void Bastards in the works for them?
Okay, so I use a Mac. I'm actually working on the game on a Mac, and maybe, I don't know. Most things work fine, so that's a hard maybe, I guess.
Okay, I mean, fair enough.
I would like it. Because I'm on a Mac, and but again, like I said, I'm working on it on my Mac, and it runs okay.
Well, I guess we'll keep an eye out for that. I mean, it sounds like if it is going to come, it'll probably come after launch, I'd imagine.
Well, but yeah, probably. I mean, Farb's probably. I mean, he'll tell you in the chat.
Yeah.
Wait, he had a question for me. He had a question for me up here.
Yes, he did.
Yeah, he was. So where is it?
I,
Is it true you had a Savage Garden track in every game you work on? That's what he was asking about?
Yeah, since you do the music.
Yeah.
Okay, so confession, I really like Savage Garden. I don't know, like non-ironically, I think they're really good. They're from most of the team is from Australia. The band is from Australia. I just think there's a cool connection there. You know what I mean?
yes, I do.
So I don't know, like a year ago or something, I replaced the title screen music with Savage Garden. I can't remember what track it was. Anyway, everybody would boot up the game. They would get their newest build, and then it would be Savage Garden music, and it wasn't really hidden. It was it was right there. I took it out.
Yeah, I was going to say, did you get the rights for this stuff, or if it actually went to full-on release, would there potentially be lawsuits?
Hey, if you hide it deep enough in the code, you probably won't get in trouble because no one will ever find it.
I really want to. I'll be honest. I don't know how much licensing would be. It would probably be like $50,000 or something. It's probably not worth it, but
If you had the option to cash on the table, it would be thrown their way.
I would absolutely 100%. Even if it was like I could cover it. I don't know. Like maybe I could have somebody cover it and it'd be cheaper. Like it'd be maybe 10 grand. I don't know. It's probably not going to happen, but
So,
anyway.
Savage Garden aside, what kind of music are you infusing in Void Bastards here?
So I'm doing the game. It's very. I would say it's similar to System Shock 2 in a way. It's very atmospheric. There's a lot of ambient stuff. I've got some punk music for the pirates. There's a little bit of kind of like industrial metal music for one of the organizations. So it's like a mix of everything. There's a little bit of jazz music. So it's like mostly atmospheric ambient plus like several other genres.
Oh, I suppose a more pertinent question is how much out of place techno music is there going to be? It's like what still floors me.
You know what? I don't know that I've wrote any techno music for Void Bastard. I'm sorry. There's a lot of electronic music, but I wouldn't say techno music. I'm sorry.
Oh well, like maybe for the sequel.
Maybe for the sequel, yeah. We'll talk to John about that one.
Yeah. Well, I suppose that begs the question: how far along is Void Bastards from completion?
Well, we're almost done. We're getting very, very close. So I expect the game will come out in a few months, I would say.
I'm guessing that's your best estimation in terms of release date.
Well, internally we have sort of hey, this is probably when we want to release, but we're not saying anything yet, just in case something goes wrong. So.
Sense. Like always, best to keep those cards close to the vest, and in case you do have to delay.
Creomore wants to know if there will be boss battles.
No boss battles, but there are definitely enemies that are like you don't want to go on the ship because this enemy is here. Sort of
higher ranking enemies.
But how can you have a video game without boss battles?
And throw Golux off a cliff.
I know.
I don't know. Prince of Persia: The Sands of Time did it pretty well. Anyway, going back to the whole rogue, the skill system and so on and so forth. Is there any sort of like progression with those? Or is there any sort of level system?
So no leveling system. It's all based on. So your character has your current character has traits. So one of the traits can be. I think we've said like you could be colorblind. So it actually just changes the like. That's not really a huge negative, I guess. Like it just changes the colors on the screen. But some of them
if there are color indicated different enemy personalities, it can be relevant, which is I think what happens in Rogue Legacy.
Right. I mean, I'm colorblind, so I mean maybe it doesn't bother me anyway. But,
no, I'm just saying it's not completely nothing, but it's a fairly minor.
Yeah, no. I know what you're saying. Yeah, it is fairly minor, but it does affect the gameplay. Slightly. So something else that can happen is there's a trait called Smoker. So it's just randomly you will start coughing. So that alerts enemies. Not great.
Okay.
So essentially we have a whole crap load of different traits that are good and that are bad. Some traits are you have really long arms, so you can interact with stuff really far away.
Does Smoker give you a bonus on noticing motion detector lasers?
No, it doesn't do it. It's just a negative trait. So there are stations where you can re-roll your trait or remove a trait. So the progression is like, hey, you get a character and maybe it has a trait that you like and maybe it has a trait that you don't like, but if you actually just play the game a little bit, you might run into a station that will allow you to remove the negative trait or re-roll it and make it a positive trait.
Now, is it always like
Fair
one
enough.
positive, one negative trait, or does it?
It's
It depends on
random.
if you get lucky.
Yeah, it's like it just rolls, like it's all random.
Now,
If you get 2 negative ones, like that sucks, but usually doesn't happen.
I was just about to say, does it at least default to try and give you a positive? Or are there
Yeah.
options where you can just get 2 negatives and you're just kind of boned?
Yeah, I think that can happen. I don't know. Another thing that can happen as well is every ship that you go to, like when you're on the map screen, every ship that you go to has different positive and negative traits as well. Let's not call them positive or negative traits, but like different traits. So one of them might be like, there is a lot of smoke on this ship. So that can be good or bad because smoke gives you cover, but also it's hard to see. You know, the ship might have, you know, all the lights are off. You have to turn the power on before you do anything else, like because all the doors are open and you can't loot anything unless the power's on. So there's like, you know,
The ship might have no atmosphere. Oops.
Well, yeah, there are ships where you have less oxygen, like you need more oxygen and it reduces your oxygen faster. So there's just all kinds of different traits, and they all the different systems play within each other, and yeah.
I suppose if we're talking about systems, we have to ask: is there a crafting system?
Yeah, that's a big part of the game. You gotta collect loot, and you gotta you know different like plastics or you know bio stuff, and then you mix it together and you make different items. Like that's essentially the upgrade system that's the leveling up of Void Bastards.
Now, like, if you die, can you, like, go retrieve gear from your corpse, or is it lost forever type thing?
So the stuff that you've collected in the, like, let's say you get on a ship and you die, and you've collected a bunch of stuff. That stuff that you collected on that ship, you don't get to keep it. But all the ships that you've gone through before that, you get to keep the stuff that you've upgraded. So let's say you've purchased or you've built a stapler, like the shotgun. You get to always have the shotgun as a loadout option in the future.
But you can't, like, go back to the ship you died on and just kind of loot your corpse and get your stuff back?
Well, you don't, because as soon as you go back to your ship, it's all procedure. The map regenerates.
Ah.
You get a whole, everything's new. So
Fair enough.
Now, in terms of the procedural generation itself, like, are the level, like, how is the randomization done? Like, is everything in presets and assembled together, or is it like more random than that?
So I would say it's more akin to Spelunky, maybe, where it's like there are parts, like modules of ships that are sort of pre-built, and they have random elements, procedural elements within those modules, and then we just kind of like piece them all together. And does that make sense?
Yeah, that's actually a fairly popular way of doing the randomization elements. For example, Dead Cells did it that way, among other games.
Yeah. So we're doing it that way.
So how many ships do you board in a campaign, or is it just like the one?
So you board a ship, and then you have, usually depending on your oxygen upgrades, you have 5 minutes on that ship. So you got to get in, get your stuff, and then leave, and then you get to go to the next ship. So most ships take you about 5 minutes to complete. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. Like,
So how many would you play through the whole game? I mean, to get to the end, I don't know, maybe.
Well, I guess that's sort of the question. Is there really an end?
Yeah, there's an end. There's an end to the game. Yeah. There's definitely progress. Like there are definitely things that you have to do, and once you get to the end of the game, it's the end. You know, you've restarted the FTL drive. You did it.
So are you just in a place where there were a surprising amount of ships that are all together because it's fairly uncommon to have a bunch of spaceships if you're dealing with faster than light ships to get that increases the distances apart they can be. So I guess the question really is, how do you get from between these ships without a faster than light drive? Are they just all relatively close together?
Yeah, you're in this nebula and there's just all derelict ships everywhere. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, that's the narrative. Yeah.
All right. So we are running low on time. So just a couple more questions here. Shifting back to the Xbox One, is this going to be Xbox One enhanced? What sort of resolution and frame rate are you targeting for the Xbox One?
From what I understand, from what I've been reading in the chat, I don't think we're gonna support 4K. So it'll be 1080 p, and I don't think we have any real feature. I mean, I'm working on some like I'm gonna have a cool surround mix. Like I'm gonna be mixing the game in an Atmos studio, so you'll be able to play on like a surround system, I guess. I don't know if that's an Xbox feature, but
I mean, I guess that's more a Dolby feature, but
yeah,
I see what you're saying there. It's more. Is this going to be 30 FPS or 60 FPS?
We're targeting 60. So.
Yeah. I mean, given the art style, having this not go to 4K isn't going to be that damaging.
No, it's not going to look any better really on that. And I'll be honest with the 30. Okay, I feel like we should. I haven't brought this up yet, but I've been taking a few GIFs and posting them on Twitter, and I've been posting them at 24 frames a second. Right. And I'll be honest, with this art style, like it gives you that kind of like cartoon, you know what I mean? Like Saturday morning cartoon, that everything is like 24 frames a second.
Like if they were shown in a movie theater, sure.
I mean, it looks fine to me, but I don't have a high frame rate sensitivity in most cases.
Yeah, I'm kind of similar the same way. As long as it's constant, I don't care.
Yeah, same here, actually.
But I know some people are very picky about, oh no, if it's not 60 frames per second, it looks like it's sharp in my eyes and I can't get motion and I get motion sick.
Oh, you should deal with the PC version of that. If it's not going like 140 or whatever.
Yeah, 144 or whatever.
If it's not going at least 3 times my monitor's actual refresh rate.
Yeah, no, we are targeting 60 frames, but I think it looks cool at 24. I think it looks, it looks like you're watching a cartoon show.
Now, I guess the option to that goes, would you be considering a frame rate limiter option for that if somebody so chose to go with that?
I mean, we haven't talked about it. I haven't even really mentioned it, but I just thought it was cool, so maybe. I don't know. I'll talk to Farbs about it. I don't know. He'll probably be upset. He's got other things to do.
Indeed. And is there going to be an FOV slider?
I don't think we're gonna have that. Okay. But maybe we should. I don't know. There have been a bunch of people complaining about FOV stuff lately, so.
That's understandable. I mean, don't really have time to go into it, but that's understandable. And I guess my final question is, do you have any sort of pricing sorted out? And once the game is complete, is that it, or is there going to be post-launch content?
Okay, so first question, the price. We're looking at probably between $20 and $30, like in that range. in terms of DLC and stuff like that, we've already been talking about that. That's something that is very possible with the way that we've built the game. So we're already talking about that. We're already kind of thinking about DLC at this point. So that's, because it's so easy to, add some more weapons, as long as we figure out balance issues and stuff like that.
Right.
It'd be very easy for us to add that stuff. So I think I think that's probably something that you can look forward to.
Okay. Does anyone else have any questions to close this out?
No, I think I'm pretty good.
I'm good.
I think I'm good.
All right. Well, Ryan, it was wonderful having you back on the program.
Yeah.
Void Bastard certainly looks interesting. I'm sure we're all looking forward to playing it. Maybe we'll ask you about reviews when it releases. Anyway, the game is Void Bastards. It's coming to the Xbox One and PC, Steam, sometime in the near future, next couple months maybe. So be sure to at least wishlist it on Steam. I'm not sure if that's a thing on Xbox One. I don't have one of those, so
I don't know if you can do that. Maybe.
Yeah, I just know you can do that on Steam. So
yeah, definitely wish list on Steam. Yeah, do that.
All right. Anyway, Petty Fan, play us to the next segment. Welcome to the topic discussion. Certainly a lot to talk about in potentiality. A lot of stuff has happened in the last few days. We settled on Metroid Prime. As far as those other subjects, we touched upon some of those. Maybe we'll touch upon another one of those next week. We'll see. But for now, we're going to talk about the Metroid Prime 4 situation. If you haven't heard the news, which is actually kind of impressive since, Nintendo uploaded a video and everything about it.
Will you kindly let me into that rock with you?
So Nintendo has given a development update on Metroid Prime 4. And so getting down to the brass tacks, they basically said Metroid Prime 4 was going to suck, okay? I mean, they put it in euphemistic terms, like not meeting expectations or whatever. Now, this was shaping up to not be a good game, or at least not a good game that Nintendo was confident in. So they've scrapped it. They've gone back to square one, and they're getting the band back together as much as they can do that these days, because you've got original series developer Retro coming on board, as well as the Metroid Prime trilogy producer Tanabe, Kensuke Tanabe, I believe his name. They specifically mentioned him because he's the guy who produced all of the old Metroid Prime games. Not exactly sure who was producer beforehand, but, it was significant enough that they mentioned him by name, that he was going to be in charge of this. So, yeah. And the reaction has been, how do I put this? People are not happy that the game is delayed, but I don't think anyone's too sad at this development because, let's be honest here, this is kind of what people wanted in the first place.
Yeah, I remember the uproar when people saying Rare or Retro wasn't doing this.
Yeah. It's like, people have been wanting another Retro Metroid game probably since the last one.
At least since Federation Force. I'm evil.
Wait a minute, you guys, am I still on? Am I still here?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, can I just say something real quick about Metroid? Metroid Prime is one of my favorite games here. So,
Feel free.
sorry. So, oh my God, like that's nuts. Like, how is Nintendo gonna, because they're just like, nope, you guys, you're not cutting it. Retro's doing it. It's like, man, I can't believe Nintendo actually just went out, made a video, and we're like, yeah, we fucked up. Sorry. Here's, Retro's doing. It's nuts. Like I didn't think they were gonna do that, but yeah.
I'm like, yeah, I don't think anybody really expected this. Although, what we were expecting from the I guess we can call this now Metroid 3.5 or whatever. This previous version of Metroid Prime that will no longer be a thing.
Yeah.
We don't really know anything about it. Like all we knew about Metroid Prime 4 beyond the logo is it was being developed by a freshman development crew at Namco Bandai, or Bandai Namco. It's like, I have friends at Bandai Namco and I still can't get that right.
Yeah, and it's like the only way we're gonna find out about this is when NDAs are done, really.
Yeah, even then, like the Bandai Namco Singapore edition of Metroid Prime, this is probably going to be the subject of a Unseen 64 video or something along those lines about 5 years from now.
I'll be honest. From what I know, I don't think they will. Like I think it's really not. I mean, like maybe 20 years from now. But.
Well, it's like this will probably one of those if they have to liquidate assets and somebody didn't delete it off hard drives type of thing.
Yeah, it's like the prototype version was found off of some contractor's hard drive. That's usually how this goes. But then again, Nintendo's usually a tight ship.
Yeah. I
say usually, but we've had things like this come from Nintendo. Whether it be like prototype things like the N64 disc drive, North American version. Somebody found an actual Super Nintendo PlayStation. One day.
And friend of the other show, Ben Heck, actually got it working.
Yes. It's like, or in terms of like game footage, like We Hammer, We Crush, shit from that emerged. The whole story of that emerged eventually. Don't know how much of that was true, but the details might emerge sometime in the distant future, but I would not expect to hear anything about it yet, in the here and now.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like as far as, and that's kind of tempered into expectations because we have no idea what this thing was going to look like. We've no concept art, no screenshots, no video footage, no nothing.
Yeah, all we literally have is the 4 animation. That's it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And there have been a lot of rumors going around about like different parts of it being done by different things and all kinds of stuff. So yeah, we don't know exactly how it was going bad, really. But we do know that it was, or that they didn't like how it was going.
It was bad enough Nintendo said no.
So the wait must have been partially making sure they had a good team to take it over, and
well, the scuttlebutt has been what Retro did is they made their own pitch towards making a Metroid Prime 4, and Nintendo accepted it.
Which I mean, honestly, is one of the that's pretty good grounds for it. It means that they already had a sort of, I don't want to say proof of concept, but like an idea.
Yeah. And that kind of flows into the other major question about this whole affair is, okay, so Retro's working on this now. What have they been working on for the past 5 years? That's the other big old.
Why you can't? Retro is so they're this tiny little bot. Like, nobody knows what they're working on. I mean, some people do, but like they're like the most closed studio.
And it's been a while since they had a noteworthy thing come out, so they must have been working on something, basically, and most of the things that they've worked on for Nintendo have been relatively high profile.
Yeah, it's like the last major release from Retro was Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze back in 2014. So that's a black box of 5 years, and they have they worked on the Switch port of Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze, for example, they haven't been idle. We know that.
Yeah.
It's just-
Nintendo's put too much money in retro for them to basically sit and do nothing for 5 years.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm like,
No, good for them. Good. It's good for retro. They're gonna kill it. It's good that it's all out in the open now. So, anyway, I'll talk to you guys later. I'm gonna take off. I'm gonna
Later.
get some work.
yes, later.
Later.
Note to self. Right. Getting back to what we were talking about, in terms of retro, I've heard scuttlebutt that not everything has been copacetic over there, and that might have been what our esteemed guest was hinting at, but we don't know. Like, retro is just a black. This is the Nintendo way. It's a black void of information until they want you to know. I mean, stuff from Nintendo has leaked, no doubt. And all that, but as far as retro goes, we might know what they've been working on. Like around E3 last year, there was rumors about they were doing a Star Fox based racer, of all things. Or it could just be it could be the most boring thing in terms of surprise, and another Donkey Kong Country game. I mean, they did 3 Metroid Prime games. Them doing 3 Donkey Kong Country games isn't without the realm of possibility. Why that would be taking 5 years is another question. Given that they've done 2 of these before, they're really good. Like, I grant you that the Switch is a new platform and everything, but in terms of design, development, and all that stuff, they should have the Donkey Kong Country format down pat. It's just a big question mark.
Yeah.
We may find out, we may not. It really depends.
Well, it's like, well, there are 2 scenarios for this. There are 2 scenarios. One, either we are going to find out very soon that their current project is done or close to done.
Yeah, it's done enough that they can have a team branch off and work on Prime 4, at least for a little while.
Or the other game's dead.
Yeah.
There are no other shades here.
I guess technically the other shade is it was shipped off to another Nintendo subsidiary to be finished. But that's probably the least likely.
Indeed.
It's either coming soon or it's dead, really.
Yeah. I'm like, so it's just a lot of we do not know. And we're not enough in the know in that particular direction to know.
Believe me, I think we'd all love to have friends at Retro and or Nintendo.
No doubt. No doubt. Though even if we did know, well, I mean, you saw with Ryan there, us knowing would not...
Yeah, I'm sure they're not allowed... Whoever knows is not allowed to tell.
Yeah, it's like, us telling that would be bad for a lot of people. It's like we know how NDAs work. It's not the. I guess technically we deal with them a lot with the embargoes. We have it with the game reviews, but it's more like professional NDAs. We've only had those once, and I said no, no.
Mm-hmm.
But that's
especially that's one of those with how many people here. Yeah, we don't want to be sued if somebody accidentally slips.
No.
Yeah.
It's like I was like, no, this is the kind of thing I could legitimately be sued for, and there are multiple people I would need to have handle this. So no, anyway. So to compare it to another project that had this happen to it, Final Fantasy VII: The Remake. Um, so, a lot of comparisons between the two things, but the reactions haven't been the same. Metroid Prime 4, mostly positive. A lot of negativity around Final Fantasy VII R. Why is that?
Because they didn't say, "Oh, and we're having the original staff come back and do it."
I think that's a big part of it. Yes.
Like it was just to be more precise. Final Fantasy VII's thing was just it was going bad, so we did start it over, and not like anything about like how it was going bad or how the new one will be better.
Right. Well, it's also Square Enix has had a history of long delayed troubled projects.
That is also definitely true.
Mm-hmm.
It's like this is not even remotely the first one. It's also, we got footage of Final Fantasy VII R. Not a whole lot of it, but we knew what they were shooting for, and it looked pretty damn good.
Mm-hmm.
Although there was a lot of baggage attached to it, looked good.
Yes.
Involving, it looks good, but what are these reports about it being an episodic, partial?
Yeah. I mean,
Final Fantasy VII isn't just popular because of the story.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, so, also, with Final Fantasy VII R, apparently the problems there, well, it was, the parallels come from the fact that both were being done by external companies, and the work they were doing wasn't up to snuff. And so they basically, in both cases, they got pulled in-house. And it's also, development's been scrapped. It's Square Onesville. Both Final Fantasy VII R and Metroid Prime will be a long ways away, like years. Like Final Fantasy VII R is probably not hitting the PlayStation 4 or whatever other consoles they might have been aiming for. I'd expect that to be on the PlayStation 5. Metroid Prime 4 is going to be a late era Switch game, if that.
Which it would have been nice if it was earlier, but
Yeah, it's one of those. It depends.
Maybe the next system will be backwards compatible enough that it can be still viable.
Well, and it also depends, at least with Prime 4, how much assets they're taking from the previous developer.
Yeah.
Because if most of the assets are there and they're just kind of doing better gameplay, we could see it in the next couple years. But if they're rebuilding everything from scratch, yeah, we're probably not seeing it on the Switch.
Yeah. I guess another part of the big old question mark is we don't exactly know when Retro took over the reins.
Mm-hmm.
Like now they could have been at this for a couple months now.
Yeah.
Once again, friends probably know, but that's neither here nor there. Probably doesn't make a big difference. This is still, this is going to be years in the making. So, as far as further development updates, I wouldn't expect anything else this year. But who knows? Only Nintendo. Oh, and its internal network now. So, yeah. Anything else to say about the Metroid Prime 4 situation?
It's interesting to see where this leads. Seriously,
Yeah.
my big thing is if we don't hear anything by E3, it's probably going to be a while before we hear anything new on Prime 4. Like, it may not release on the Switch if we don't hear anything by either this E3 or next. But that's just purely speculation on my part.
Yeah.
Mhm.
All right. So that'll about do it for this installment of Fragments Silicon. Let's see. So our guest has requested that this episode be edited to, to remove some of those comments he made. He wants to make sure that people don't get in trouble. Now, this is the other part of, when you skirt to the NDAs, certain measures have to be taken.
I'll try, but I
Yeah.
guarantee nothing. Because you remember what happened last time I tried to edit an episode? It took the audio out.
Yeah, it's like no promises. This is also, we are a live show.
Yeah, so I guess beforehand, this is kind of an apology if I can't get it edited.
Yes. He said it should be fine, but he wants to be sure. But it's like what has been said. It's hard to unsay when you say it on our program. It's
Like,
what we're getting.
Yeah.
one thing to keep note: a former developer who was on our show nearly lost their job because they said something they shouldn't. So, I guess future note: any upcoming developers, mind your NDAs.
Yeah, mind you.
Indeed.
We might poke a little bit of fun if people say we can't talk about. We wish you could, but no, seriously, we're not asking you to say anything you're not allowed to say.
Yeah.
It's like, mind you, it's not really our. If you step over the line, we will try to do what we can do, but
Yeah.
It's it's a bother. With that out of the way, the week ahead. Coming up on Friday, we have no event scheduled.
I'll probably stream some more Kingdom Hearts 3 throughout the week, though. And there will be raids on Thursday, like usual.
The Sunday reviews. We got 3 reviews this week. We got the Raven Remastered for Nintendo Switch. I know that's a very specific thing to put in, but here's the thing: if we get a Switch game, it's Golix's review.
Yeah, I have started that. Haven't gotten as much time as I want to, but I am going to do more so that I can, accurately review a game.
Yes. Well, you still have like 4 or so days to do it.
I know. I'm planning on taking advantage of it, starting probably this evening.
Yeah.
Well, tonight it's night, but yeah.
Whatever. We got Mage's Initiation, Reign of the Elements, a Quest for Glory styled adventure game. This has apparently been 10 years in the making. Like, this. Surprisingly, we got 4 codes for this one. So. And okay, this is going to be an unusual one. It's Grim and Tonic Episode 1 Impressions. So I got this. It's a visual novel called Grim and Tonic. It has its first episode completed and its side stories. But it's all in one package. It's in an early access package. I'm like, so this puts us into an unusual position, as our usual policy is to not review early access stuff. But
this is early access primarily because it's episodic, and the final result will be
it will be all the episodes. So the episode in question is done. Its side content is done. That is done, but we cannot evaluate the full package because the other 5 episodes, this is one of 6,
have not appeared, do not know if they will appear. And it's, and they are asking for a set price for the entire thing. So that is why this will be an impressions video rather than a review. I can give my impressions of the first bout of content, but there's still the early access potentiality problem connected to this thing. So it's a pretty unique situation. I'll give it that. It's a pretty unique visual novel too. And with that in mind, until Sunday, I wish you good gaming.